Hey guys, welcome back to another Don't Be a Parts Changer video. I got a 2002 Chevy pickup. It came in about a year ago. Check engine light on, had a bunch of codes. We documented the codes. The guy had just bought the truck, so he was going to take it back to the place where he bought it and didn't want to address anything at that time. So this guy went back to the place where he bought it from. Their mechanic looked at it, told him the light will always be on. So either he couldn't figure out how to diagnose it, or it had something that was expensive to fix, and if he didn't want to fix it, it would drive fine, but the light would remain on. I pulled it in, scanned it. Here's the codes we got. Now these aren't all the same codes that I had last time I scanned this. Last time we also had a camshaft position sensor code and a crankshaft position code. So we got O2 sensor low, bank 2, sensor 2, engine misfire, mass airflow sensor circuit, EVAP purge control circuit, EVAP vent control circuit. So right off the bat, I'm seeing several things going on here. This mass airflow code and the engine misfire code, I see these paired together a lot in the wintertime, and it's normally the intake manifold gaskets leaking, but I'm a little leery to jump on that because I have these two other codes that are control circuit codes. The O2 sensor by itself, when I check the freeze frame data, and that's the screen I'm on now, let's go ahead and do that. So O2 sensor, mileage since first failure is 829, mileage since last failure is 456. We go down here, the engine was running for 14 minutes before it set the code. So that seems like an intermittent fault. Engine misfire. I drove the truck, didn't feel any misfires. It had been running for 30 minutes. So that's normally not the intake gasket leak. When you get a misfire from that, it happens first thing when you start it up cold. So let's go check the next one. I don't always check the freeze frame data because a lot of times it doesn't have the information you need. But in this case it does. So the mass airflow sensor code happened 279 miles ago. Mileage since last failure, 0 miles. When it set the code, engine runtime, 3 seconds. So we're going to go back, check the next one. Now the next two are EVAP codes, and the freeze frame data shows no EVAP information, or very little. But 279 miles ago was the first failure. 0 since last failure, and that's probably because it's a hard fault. Engine runtime, 4 seconds. So we're seeing a pattern here that all three of these circuit codes started at the same time. So the last EVAP code, 279 miles since the first failure, 0 miles since the last failure, 4 seconds of runtime. So this is the same information for all three codes. They all happened at the same time, and they're all circuit codes. So we either have a power supply issue, a ground issue, that is related to all three of these sensors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the wiring diagram, which I already have pulled up. So the vent solenoid and the purge solenoid are both powered by a pink wire, and I've already tracked them down so we don't have to jump through all that. Intake air temp sensor, mass airflow sensor, pink wire. Well, guess what? All three of those pink wires come right up here to the engine 1 fuse, and it's a 10 amp fuse. But open up the fuse block and I see wires added in here, and there's a fuse tap right here. So I looked at the schematic. That one is PCM1, what's labeled on here. And it says 15 amp, but in the diagram it showed a 10 amp. So this lid may not be the right lid. I pulled the fuse diagram for this vehicle, and it shows ECM1 fuse in that location, and it's supposed to be a 10 amp. If we look in here close, you can see a little bit of corrosion on that fuse. That fuse looks good. The one below it, it's hard to test it because the relay is right in the way. Me personally, I would not put a fuse tap into anything that is operated or going to the ECM, they should have tied into an accessory fuse. But if I just take my meter here, check power there, got nothing. Go to the other leg of that fuse, I got nothing. The fuse below it, nothing. And that leg, I do have power. So I'm actually diving between the fuses to hit that lower leg because I can't get to it with this relay in the way. Even more stuff wrong, this fuse tap is in backwards. If the power's coming in on this side, it has to go through the primary fuse before it can power up this accessory fuse. So now, let's say, and they're both 10 amp fuses, if I have, we'll say a 7 amp load on this accessory fuse, which this wire is actually going back to the trailer wiring. I'm not sure why they decided to tie this in here. So if this is pulling 7 amps when they have a trailer hooked up, it's also putting that 7 amp load on the lower fuse. So then fire up the engine and the EVAP system decides to kick on and the purge solenoid's going and the vent closes. It's going to add a couple more amps there, and it's going to be enough to pop the lower fuse and not this top fuse. So this fuse tap is in backwards. It shouldn't be tied into the PCM. And I'm going to remove that, put a regular fuse back in there, and this truck should be good to go. I did pull a spark plug out to check for the reason on the misfire. The gap is actually correct. It's right around 62,000. This truck calls for 60, but that electrode is really weird the way it's bent. It's actually bent up and off to the side, so I don't know if this is the right plug or not, or if this is just a defective one. I only pulled one of them out. I'm going to go ahead and replace these, make sure that the new plugs are properly gapped, and we shouldn't have an issue. So even though the other shop said that you're going to have to deal with the light, it's always going to be on. Pretty simple fix to the problem. We just need to delete that fuse tap out of that location, put a fuse back in it. I'll retest the system, make sure everything is good. But I did notice the truck surging a little bit when I came in, but if there's no power going to that mass airflow sensor, it's not going to work. It's not going to be able to meter the air coming in, especially when it's cold like it is right now. It's going to have to go to a base map. We're at 5,000 feet of elevation. It's about 20 degrees outside, so it's not going to run correctly. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe, hit the bell if you want to see future videos that come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.